Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm ready for action.
3, 2, 1, let's go.
Da, 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 da. It's life outside the box.
Is that the intro?
That's the intro.
You know what I think would be more applicable is Gucci Gang, Little Pump.
Right now we'll change it. Yeah.
Go on then. Do you want to sing?
Little box life, little box.
Oh no!
Can we start again?
No, I was just thinking in my head thinking, guys, we're not going to start again. This is it. This is what you get from us today. So, Sam, do you want to introduce who we've got with us today?
Today we have the man that always keeps it crispy. We've got Callum joining us. Absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thanks, mate.
And to get into your head a little bit today.
Thanks. I appreciate being here, boys.
Good. Do you want to give yourself a little intro for those of you who don't know you, Callum?
So I am a full-time content creator. So I started recently with Sonny Webster, aka the Barbell King from Britain. And I've been traveling around Europe, Bali for the last 2 months, capturing crispy content. Absolutely loving every single moment of it. Meeting fellas like you, developing random bromances. It's been phenomenal.
Awesome. Yeah, cannot complain. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here and getting to know you over the last couple of weeks.
Oh, look at his face. Look how happy he looks. Awesome. So you've been travelling around Europe and Bali for the last couple of months, just shooting content, creating content.
Yeah.
All for Sonny was episode 4, was it for us? Or episode 5, just shooting all Sonny stuff. So anytime that you see Sonny looking with abs or anything on a picture, that's because of you.
Yeah, it's the hours I spend on the edit, to be fair. It's not the photo. And to be fair, he does know how to flex pretty hard and he loves a bit of baby oil.
Oh, mate. I know.
The
I watched that
secrets.
vlog, actually. I watched the vlog where Linda was baby oiling up by the pool.
Jeez. That's a day in my life, mate.
Day in the life.
That's part of the job, isn't it?
So what we're going to do now is we're going to jump onto some questions that we've had sent in from the viewers. So 24 hours before the show, we always put up a question box.
Yeah.
Luckily, you helped us out and put that up as well. So we got some questions sent in from the viewers. This week, question 1 was from Lauren, and it was, how did you get into content creating in the first place?
It was a bit of a funny one. I owned a gym back in Christchurch, New Zealand, and it was a franchise gym. And we were paying a advertising fee. So we were paying 200 New Zealand dollars a week, about 100 quid. And I'd get a whole lot of content sent to me each month, and it'd be 20 photos, 2 videos, but it was very Americanized. So it was like covering every single demographic. They had a white guy, had an Indian, had a black guy, had a girl and a boy, they had an old guy, and I was like, this just is not applicable for the New Zealand market. So I started reaching out to content creators locally, asking if they do work for me, and I was just getting blown away by the prices that they were giving me. So I thought, why not pick up my mobile camera, give it a crack, and I ended up buying this DJI gimbal thing for the mobile. You see some people kind of walking around with it. And I filmed a couple of videos of the gym, and I also filmed a video at my CrossFit box at the time, and the video went viral, the CrossFit box one. And I had a whole lot of people saying, oh, how did you do this? How long have you been doing it? I thought, oh, I quite like the idea of making people look good, because they were all firing through, can I get a copy of the video, this and that. So I just slowly did more and more videos for my franchise gym. And I realized that I had a real passion for it. And I started moving away from coaching and doing more content creation for that and a online programming platform in New Zealand. So I was doing that for a wee while, I think about 6 months. And then it's funny, I met one of my best friends before he even knew it online. So he was doing this challenge where it was a weekly vlog. So he did a weekly vlog every week. His name's Dave Risden. And I ended up watching it and I thought, geez, this guy's insane. Like, I'm watching him do the most boring things. Like, one of the videos was him in his garden, rolling out lawn and feeding his dogs and going for a walk along the beach. And I was like, fuck, I'm so encompassed in this 10-minute video. So I ended up watching this video every single week for 52 weeks. And I thought, I've got to reach out to this guy. It was actually after I saw him with a couple of CrossFit bumper plates in his garage. I was like, okay, there's a bit of a common ground here. Yeah. So I reached out to him, and a week later he came along to the gym, and then the following week we flew out to the Down Under CrossFit Champs, back when the sanctional CrossFit season was there. And he just yolled it and said, I'm going to come with you. But little did he know I'd bought the same camera, the same lenses, the same setup that he'd had during the period of watching his vlogs, with kind of the idea in the back of my head that this guy's going to teach me at some point in time, just because it's funny what a vlog gives you. Like, you kind of connect with them on a level where you kind of know what they're going to be like. Yeah. So I just bought all this stuff and was secretly following him on social media and stuff. And then he ended up YOLOing this trip after knowing me for 10 days. And we stayed in a cabin together for 4 or 5 nights, and we were just creating content going crazy, and I learned so much off of him in the space of 2 or 3 days. I was like, I've got to jump at this and do it. Like, I really, really enjoy this. So that's how I started my content creation journey.
That's sick.
So
Yeah.
it's almost something that you stumbled across. You didn't study it growing up or anything. It just kind of just
Yeah.
came across it.
Yeah. And it's in a selfish kind of way. I think I was in a place in my life where I needed compliments. I was quite down in the dumps, and whenever you get a compliment and when you're in that sort of position in your life, like, you really grasp it and take it and think, right, how do I get more of these? So I think it was more of like a selfish instinct for myself, and I was like, I love this, and I love the feeling of making people look good on camera.
Yeah.
That's what stuck out to me when you first, because the first sentence to what you said was that I enjoy making people feel better.
Yeah.
And that's probably because you maybe were down a little bit when you started it, and you knew what it felt like to be down a bit, and you're like, I can make other people feel better.
Yeah.
That's an amazing thing.
And that's why you see me, like, we'll do an 8-hour seminar, and Sonny will say, right, let's go grab a drink, let's go grab dinner and celebrate. And I'm literally like, nah, bro, I need to go do these videos, I need to go do these edits, and I'll just literally disappear. And you guys have probably seen it. I'll disappear into the cafe, or disappear into somewhere where I can be a bit of a hermit, and I'll just edit for 2-3 hours, and I won't even look at the clock. Finished. I'm like, wow, that just flew past. And then I just get it out there, and I just love seeing people smile. Like, even some of the stuff we shot with you at the BFS, the fashion shoot, like,
Yeah.
I just love, if I can make someone happy for 2 or 3 seconds, and I don't care if I'm getting paid or not. Like, I absolutely love that.
Yeah, I know that when we walk into the gym for our 3 o'clock session in the afternoon, if you're locked away in that little glass room, just that Cal will come out when he's ready to come out. Just leave him in there. He's fine, he'll come out when he's done.
That's so nice that you can see that you're actually so passionate about it as well. I've got a few other friends that are photographers, and you see that's the same with them. Like, they'll shoot for a day and they'll send you the photos that night, and it's like, dude, it's all right, you don't have to send me today. And they're like, no, I really just want to get it out there. And it just like speaks volume about how passionate you are about your work at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I think, like, you're so lucky if you're able to find a job out there where you can feel like that, and every day, even though it is work for you, it's something that brings you joy and pleasure, and you enjoy doing it, which I think is obviously really important in this day and age. And to be able to give people the opportunity to look the best version of themselves through a photo with something or a video that they can keep forever. Like, I know you did a video of Dan from the gym. He clean and jerked 140 kilos in a seminar last weekend, and that was, for me, that was one of the highlights of the day. And to see the video again, it just brought back like all the memories, and you can capture it in such a nice way where you can kind of feel the emotion from the video. And I think that's just a pure talent that you have, which is awesome. And it's nice for us to be able to keep that and be able to relive that moment.
Well, I like the correlations here, because obviously we've both spoken in the past on separate episodes about how good it feels to improve people's confidence through nutrition and training in the gym. And one of the most important things is sometimes not what they can do in the gym, but how they walk out of the gym with a smile on their face, how much confident they more feel. They go out, the clothes they choose to wear, and that kind of stuff. And you're coming from the same kind of angle. That you like improving people's confidence by making them feel better.
Yeah, literally. And I think that's why me and Sonny align so much, is that he's doing that in different levels. He's doing that with helping them through moving or giving them that eureka moment. And I'm there capturing those moments, and I'm so privileged for where I'm at, because I'm doing it with one of my best mates. Like, I've known him for 7 or 8 months, and the commonalities that we have, the desire to help people that we have, like, it's just so rare. And I can't get over it. Like, I pinch myself on a daily basis. I've been in Bali for 5 weeks. Like, I have been, like, I've been saying to all my mates, my story looks unbelievable. I've been grinding behind the scenes, working hard, but like, I would not change a moment of it. Like, this last 5 weeks has been the biggest blur, like, which I think just speaks volume to how much fun I'm actually having.
Last 6 months have been a blur for me. The last 7 years have been a blur for Sam. I think it's just the Bali blur.
That's a great measure of success as well. It's like you can't measure success of how much money you're taking home, because you can have a job that pays the most money in the world, and if you're not describing it how you're describing it, where you're literally pinching yourself every day to be part of it and living the life that you live, that's ultimately, for me, that's what success is.
Well, you don't really go to work, do you? You live life with a camera, and then that gets to be your job.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you say that, the normal life, like, and it sounds critical, but I think a lot of my friends back home are in that, and I was very close to being in that moment. I had my dream house, my dream garage gym, my dream dog. I had the girlfriend that I thought was my dream. I had everything. I had the dream job, a good pay. I had working for my family business where I could do what I wanted to do and treat it how I wanted to, like obviously not taking the mickey, but working hard and then being able to go when I please. And I was 6 out of 10 happy. And I was like, I could so easily have a baby, settle in, and just copy and paste the lifestyle of 90% of New Zealand. And
90% of the world.
Yeah,
It's so easy to feel like when everybody else are doing things around you, that you feel like society is pushing you towards doing those things, that it's easy to settle for those things because you think that's what you're meant to do.
I think the biggest thing for me was I was becoming stagnant in like relationship growth. Like I wasn't meeting people that were that like-minded. I felt a little bit like an outsider. So like I'd turn up to events every 3 or 4 months because I kind of knew what everyone was going to tell me. I knew what my mates were doing. I could literally tell you what my mates are doing in the last 3 months, you know, and I felt out of place. Like I felt like the outsider. And now I'm with someone like Sonny, and we're so relatable and moving forward on so many things and meeting like-minded people like you two. Like it's exactly what I needed. And it's just so funny looking back at it and thinking about the risk associated with it and potentially not doing it, because you always, you know, you never.
It's easy to be comfortable, right?
When you're comfortable, you don't want to go anywhere. So like,
yeah, you just keep chipping on. That's super interesting that you say that. Is if you are none of us know where we're going to be in a year's time. Like for you, it's been 7-8 months working with Sonny, and if you go back 12 months ago, you probably never think that you're going to be in this situation ever. No. So it's always like try to use this as a bit of a message to put out there, and when people come to Bali as well, is like just to take that risk and to at least give it a go and see what it brings you. Because like you say, you're a shining example of what can potentially be out there for you if you're willing to take a small risk and make yourself 10 out of 10 happy rather than 6 out of 10 happy.
Yeah, and I have, like, apart from being severely hungover on multiple occasions. But
highs and lows.
I don't know if we're ready to talk about the weekend yet. I don't know if
You've got to be low to appreciate the high.
Yeah, I think all the guys at home who watch this will follow us on social media and they'll know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Keep it Gucci.
So I think that's a nice place to move on to our second question from Matt. So Matt obviously is a long-time friend of the show, super good athlete himself. Qualified for Waterpalooza this year, did he? Came 26th at the intermediate phase, I think. Now, his question was, do you ever get FOMO being such a good athlete, but being that side of the camera?
It's funny. There's a particular time in my CrossFit journey where I made the switch. So I'd been training for a competition called the Torium Pro before it became a sanctioned CrossFit event, and they had an elite pairs competition. So they had Rich Froning was a guest appearance, and he was with Royce, China Cho, and Tasia came over. Tia Claire was coming over to do one of the workouts, and it was just a star-studded field. And I thought, it was about 9 months out, I was like, right, I'm going to put my head down and give this a seriously good crack. Like, use this as my pinnacle of my sport. Because I've got a bucket list, like a very thorough bucket list. And one of the things on the top of that bucket list is to do a workout with Rich Froning. So I thought, what better place than to compete alongside him? So long story short, I'd trained my ass off, sacrificed a lot of things, sacrificed my business, sacrificed my income, sacrificed my relationship at the time. Was really, really selfish, which I think most high-level athletes are.
There's no other way.
And ended up qualifying in 3rd for this competition. So I thought, shit, we could podium at this event. Which in my head I was visualizing me alongside Rob Forte, Jay Crouch. And I was partnered up with a guy called Clint Cole, shout out Clint, who's like one of the fittest guys in France. So I was like, right, we're really in a good position here to do well. And it was the first event we went out. We were actually in the lanes before we go out. I was in the top heat. I think Dave was actually in the heat with us.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there, and it was just silence. It was a bit of awkwardness because obviously Rich is there and he's the fucking goat. And I can't remember what it said, but it was like, he was like, y'all nervous? And we're all like, huh? And he's like, I need to take a shit. And it was just the nicest icebreaker. But I remember going out for that first event, and it was a 30 cal bike erg, 20 unbroken bar muscle ups, and then you switch with your partner, and then you do 50 clean and jerks, break it up however you want to finish it. And obviously everyone went hot out the gate. So I think everyone did their muscle ups unbroken, sent it on the bike. And ironically, Rich and Royce were the last ones off the muscle ups. So I think everyone knew at that point that they'd all
fucked up.
Yeah. But it was about 15, 20 reps into this 50 clean and jerks. I remember looking across to Rich. He was 2 lanes across from me, and I thought, you know what? I'd rather be filming this right now than competing. And I thought, like, if I'm doing something on the top of my bucket list that I put so much time and devotion into, and I'm not actually enjoying the moment, I was like, that's a bit of a wake-up call. So I'd always love Savan's behind the scenes content in the CrossFit Games, and that was always my goal. Is I didn't want to be an average Joe videographer. I didn't want to be the sexiest videographer, because being the sexiest videographer is hard. There's always going to be someone biting you. I wanted to be the guy that stood out, asked the questions that didn't want to be answered, pushed a few buttons, but got the right people talking, and some people obviously didn't like me. And that's kind of how I interpret whether I regret doing CrossFit or not. So there was a bit of a phase for probably 6 to 7 months where I really struggled mentally with tapering back my volume and feeling my fitness decrease, just because when you become that selfish, you create an unhealthy ego and competitiveness. So I always wanted to win. And if I didn't win, I felt like I was letting myself down. So I'd probably say only in the last 18 months, I've really started enjoying training again, which has been a nice switch. Like, we've had some really good sessions, and you can see it a little bit. Like, I've still got a little bit of that competitive fire, but then, I mean, me and Bish are going 1-to-1 pretty much. Bring on CrossFit Games 2023.
We're going play. See you there.
But yeah, I've gone back to a place now where I really enjoy it, and I'm happy with where I'm at. Like, I can do the content, which is what I love, and I can still train at a pretty high level. And I'm pretty privileged with my job that Sonny allows me to have the flexibility to do that, because he knows it's fulfilling for me.
Yeah, I think that's important as well to bring up. When you are at a point in your training where you feel like you're really peaking, and then a few months down the line, you're looking back at that point and suddenly you're like, oh, why am I not being able to do this anymore? I feel you're going through a bit of a similar thing right now with your training.
Yeah.
Where Mike came from a strength background where he was strong, or stronger than he is now, but
I'm stronger than you.
Well, he was strong. We'll just say strong. I don't think he was strong.
But we're not competitive.
But I mean, even from your bodybuilding days, like you must naturally look back at old photos and be like, "Fuck, that's what I used to look like." Like, there must have been a mindset switch for you there.
I think it's the same with bodybuilding and the strength training. You don't really realize where you are when you're doing it. Like, I never really realized I looked like that. Like,
it's true, because
you're
so stuck in the process.
Yeah, and I never really I never really appreciated lifting the weights that I used to lift. It was just part of the program. It was just part of this is what you do every day. This is what you turn up.
So
and
it's programmed into you.
Yeah, like like what you said before. If you want to be a top class athlete at anything in today's society, it's so competitive. No matter what you do, that it has to be your whole life. You have to be super selfish. And at those times, especially when I was competing, I was the most selfish person in the world. Like, I went to bed at the exact same time, woke up at the exact right time. I wouldn't do anything that was not 100% on my schedule. And it's great, but then, like you say, when you get on stage and you win or you don't win or whatever, you've got to ask yourself, are those sacrifices worth winning this? And for me, they weren't. I wasn't willing to do what it took to get to the next stage. And that's why I stopped competing, because I was like, I'm not willing to do, I'm sure you can understand what I'm saying, but I'm not willing to do the stuff that the next level of guys do, so I don't want to do that. So for me, luckily, I got out when I did. But yeah, with my training right now, it's the same kind of thing, what you're saying with making sacrifices in different areas.
Yeah, and I think that's what I've got out of that is just making sure that you're happy across the board, and you're not dragging yourself into training every day and getting yourself into a position where you're not happy anymore because you're focusing so much on the numbers and the training and tracking progress, and everything else in your life is taking a dip, where you can be happier by finding your actual passion or your true passion, whether that's filmmaking or whatever it is, and putting your eggs in that basket rather than trying to chase something that essentially might not be making you as happy as you could be.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind elaborating a little bit there on what Sam was saying about me and the strength kind of thing. So what's gone on at the moment with me and my training is that everything is improving across the board apart from my strength numbers. My strength numbers have gone down considerably to what they were like even before I got to Bali 7 months ago. They've gone down considerably.
Was that all the steroids?
Hey, yeah. That fucking bodybuilding.
It's all coming out now.
Yeah. But in theory, everything else is better. So all the workouts that I'm doing this week are all remarkably a lot better than what they've ever been before. But my strength figures are still down on what they were. So that's what you just have to. We've had like a bit of a chat about it this week because I was a little bit down about some of my numbers. And realistically, it's like, well, do you want to go back and be a strength athlete, or do you want to try and compete at CrossFit? Because if you want to try and compete at CrossFit, you have to be good across the board and not just strong.
Yeah, seeing the progress within the sport rather than within one element of the sport.
Yeah, 100%. So next question is from Joe, one of your pals from back home, I believe. And he wants to know, what made you quit your job in New Zealand and move to Sydney?
It was kind of going back to that 6 out of 10 happiness thing, but I've probably had 2 or 3 life-changing opportunities that I haven't grasped, that I know would have changed the trajectory of my life. And I thought, well, that's actually funny. So I think 2 years ago, I wrote down 3 names on a piece of paper, and it was Steve Cook, Ryan Fisher, and Sonny Webster. I said, if I ever get the opportunity to do any free work or freelancing, or I see them in an event, I'll make a conscious effort to strategically approach them. And that's what I did at the Torian Pro. So he was coaching Khan Porter and helping with his weightlifting. And it was quite funny because there was this room of CrossFit athletes, and it was a bit hectic. But in the corner, there was this bubble of space that was left open for Sonny and Khan to warm up. And I just remember seeing everyone staring at him, and he had his, what Sonny's like, he had full pink outfit on, pink fucking Air Nikes or whatever he had on. He's going to hate that I said that. Pink gear on. And I literally went up to him, and I wasn't your typical, I think this is my point of difference with the other videographers, is that I don't go, hey, my name's Callum, do you mind if I ask you a few questions? I'm really a big fan. I went in there, whacked the camera in his face, turned it on, threw something at him that was completely out of the blue, and he was like, what the heck? And then just had a conversation like I would with any of you boys, and asked questions that I was genuinely interested in. And I already had a great relationship with Khan, so Khan was there kind of feeding off it as well. And then 4 days after that event, Sonny messaged me and said, hey, do you know anybody in Sydney that's anything like you boys, the crispy dudes, me and Dave? And I said, nah, mate, but I'll jump on a plane tomorrow and see you if you want. So he was like, so if I take another step back, I've listened to Sonny on a couple of podcasts, and I knew he was a very impulsive person. So I knew that he'd appreciate me doing that. So I said, yeah, I'll jump on a flight tomorrow. And I booked the flight that night, flew over with the intentions of being over there for 4 days. And we didn't talk salary. We didn't talk what he wanted out of it. I was like, bro, let's not fucking talk about any of that. Let's see if we gel. If we gel, the content's going to be sick. And we ended up gelling probably in about 90 minutes of sitting on the couch yarning to each other. Had so many similarities. His dad grew up a couple of hours where my dad grew up in the UK. His mum lives 5 minutes around the corner from where I live in Christchurch. We're 2 weeks away in age. We love the same cars. We literally order each other the same meals. Like it's actually uncanny how many similarities we have, and we've both been reasonably competitive. Well, he's been a phenomenally competitive athlete through his childhood, and I was a competitive athlete as well with rugby and athletics. And I was there for the 4 days, and on the very last day, there was a COVID outbreak in New Zealand. So the borders shut. I didn't get any pre-warning or anything, and I ended up getting stuck there for 8 weeks in lockdown. So I got to see the best and worst of Sonny, and a big part of being a videographer or a content creator for something like this is I spend more time with Sonny than Lyndall, his partner. So I have to be his best friend, his boyfriend, his shoulder to cry on, my shoulder to cry on. So like there's a level of rapport that I don't think people even realize that we have with one another. So that 8 weeks was a blessing in disguise. So I ended up flying back to New Zealand, having to do the 2-week quarantine thing, which was quite good because I had a lot of time by myself to think and reevaluate what I really wanted to do, and really realize how unhappy I was and how little progress I was making on that relationship thing, like I was saying, with new friends and contacts and stuff and networking. And I ended up staying in New Zealand, working for him part-time online, doing some horrendous hours because all his UK team obviously gets up at a different time. So I was doing some really late hours after work, working for him for 6 months, waiting for the borders to open back up. And then the borders opened back up, and I jumped on a plane, flew over, and we're here now. So I did 3 weeks in Sydney, 5 weeks around Europe, and 5 weeks here.
Yeah. That's pretty awesome. Again, showing that like you still had to put in so much work. Like you didn't just fall into this opportunity. It's like working all those hours and everything like got you to the opportunity of being here where you are now.
Yeah.
And if you hadn't have put yourself out there and made a conscious effort to approach him at the beginning and to make it work for you, then it wouldn't have happened. So I think it's important to be like, you can't just wait for stuff to be given to you. You've like anyone we've spoken to that's successful from the very beginning, they've all gone out and got them what they wanted and made sure they've made made or done the best of their ability to get what they actually wanted. And then with the content that you guys create as well, I think that's having that relationship is going to allow you to produce much better content, because he can feel like himself around you, and you can portray him as a real person rather than bringing in a videographer for somebody and then them meeting in the morning and doing a shoot together, and you're never really going to be able to catch someone's personality. And I know, like, watching your vlogs and the videos that you do of Sonny, it's very personable, because you can watch from where you're viewing it, and you almost feel like he's talking to you, but he can then bring that side out of him to the whole audience, which is just something that you just can't get unless you have that relationship with your
There's two things
client.
there, kind of what you brought up, and you've just exactly, when he was saying it was going through my head, the same things that you did. But the vulnerability that you get with being friends with someone is what you need as a videographer. Yeah, because if it's always on show and he's always trying to be, or anyone's always trying to be the best version of themselves, they're not vulnerable. That comes across to the audience. So you can only get that by being friends and having a good relationship with someone, for them to feel trust to be able to do that. And then secondly, obviously, what Sam touched upon there was the fact of that there's a common trend between every single guest we've had on here, that the only way that anyone who we've had on this podcast has been successful is by grinding their ass off and by working hard. Like, every single person we've had on has said the same thing, a different way of doing it, but every single person, we're so lucky that we've had super successful guests on this podcast. But the same thing that every single person is saying is that it's just hard work. It's hard work, being continuing, like, just continuously hard work.
Yeah. It's like Mike said, it's the same thing every week. Is so easy to think that people just have these dream, like your job would be called a dream job, and it's like someone could look from the outside and be like, oh, this guy's mates with Sonny, so he just gave him a job, and it's like, couldn't be further from the truth. And it's the same like we spoke about with Sonny, is like, he's got a successful business because he was a weightlifter, and it's like, it's not the truth. Like, when you actually speak to these people and realize what they've put into it, if you want the success, you're going to have to work for it. You're never going to get it for free. And that's just been every single week. We've heard it again and again. So if you are listening to this and you want to be successful, stop waiting for it and just get out there and make it happen.
Find something you're super passionate about, so it doesn't feel like you're missing out too much on other stuff because you're passionate about what you're doing, and just grind your ass off.
Yeah, it was funny because Sonny and I caught the graveyard. So Sonny's had 5 different videographers in the space of a year, and they didn't work for multiple reasons. It was either they weren't passionate about weightlifting, they didn't have the work ethic, he didn't like their content, or they just simply didn't vibe. So one of the biggest goals I have with Sonny, and which I think comes from caring about him, is that I've listened to him on podcasts, and I think podcast is his way forward. Like, I think he's got and you guys literally said he's been your best guest, like, and he blows people away.
Yeah.
So the thing my goal for him is he's a viral sensation with a barbell. But people don't realize that the mindset that he has, especially for how young he's 28 years old, the mindset, the knowledge, the charisma, his ability to, like, just speak, like, just knowledge bombs, it's unheard of. And I want people to know how well educated he is, how passionate he is about weightlifting. And that's my goal, is to kind of, like, mint a wee bit more of that into his content. And that's why we want to do the longer format content, and that's why I keep pushing him to doing a podcast. I think he'd be phenomenal on a podcast.
Yeah, if anyone hasn't listened to the Sonny episode and are listening to this, then everything that Cal just said, you will get to see and hear for yourself in the podcast, because I was blown away with how smart,
just how intelligent. Now, the thing for me was, I've followed Sonny for a long time, and me and him have had numerous chats about it.
What was your impressions of him?
Well, my impression in the first place was he's an unbelievable athlete who I'd love to go for a beer with. And that's kind of why, like, I watched some other podcasts and stuff, and I thought, out of everybody, I'm not going to mention names, but out of everyone whose podcast he was on and whatever, I was like, oh, they're all right, but Sonny's the person I'd like to go for a beer with. But then when you actually get to sit in here, you think, wow, how intelligent is he? Because you think to yourself, oh, well, he's been to the Olympics, everything that happened, he got, like, thrust into, like, the limelight because of what happened, and now it's going to be easy for him. Well, no, you couldn't be further from the case. No, he got that platform, then he just grinded his half off from there.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point to move in now to the kind of sections what we speak about every week. We kind of give the same sections every week to our different guests and see where they kind of run with that. I think it's a lovely way to go about it. So the first section here we're going to talk about now is, what is the most important thing you do outside the box that helps you inside the box?
There's a couple of things. One thing is I've got like a really old school BMW back home in New Zealand, and I've got these, like, big twisty long hills over the back of my house, and I'll jump in there, wind the windows down, and it's got this really raspy exhaust note, and I'll drive over the hills listening to whatever song that I have on repeat, and I'll just fly over those hills. And there's something like, it's almost like my meditation. Like a lot of my boys back home know that I'll be driving quite stupidly fast over the hills, but that's like me being in the moment as much as possible. And I think that's what I've realized so much in this trip. It wasn't necessarily the driving of the car, but it was being present in the moment. I'm such an overthinker that I'm always thinking about what's next, what could happen, okay, what's my plan B, C, D that could potentially happen. So I think a big thing for me is surrounding myself with people that allow me to be in the moment with them and present. And you know within 2 or 3 minutes if it's a chit chat, if they're going to pull their phone out, if they're actually engaged, if they're giving you eye contact. So that's probably the biggest thing that I do outside of the box. But it's just funny how I've made the realization that it wasn't the car or the going fast over the hills or the music, but it's like the moments.
Yeah, like me time.
Yeah, just being present, like not thinking about what has happened or what could have happened or what's going to happen in the future or what could happen. Like just being here right now, right here, because that's your life. Like people think your life is what happened or what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Whereas this is my life right now, sitting on this chair, these cushions, speaking to you both, like enjoying the conversation.
That was the what gone you got.
It's like, it sounds cheesy as, but you know that lyrics from that song where you don't realize you're in the moment until it's a memory.
Yeah.
And that's like, I think about that all the time, because the first time I heard that song I was like thinking back to like all the best moments in my life, and within that moment I wasn't really thinking this is the best moment of my life apart from Sunday night. But you don't realize it, like we said about this podcast, like this is the highlight of the week for me, like I've said before. And it's sometimes I look forward to it and it happens and I'm like, oh wait a minute, it's almost like just a blink and it's gone. It's just appreciating the moment right here, right now.
It's the famous saying that life's about the journey, not the destination.
Where'd you read that?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Sounds good.
I don't know. It's a good saying though, yeah?
Yeah.
Well done.
Thanks, mate. Tick 1. There you go. So now the next thing we're going to talk about now is what's your favourite thing to do outside the gym or the box? You CrossFitters.
I love watching YouTube, and it's funny, like I remember going to the cinemas with my ex and she'd get annoyed at me watching movies because I'm looking at the cinematography, I'm looking at the way that it's been colored, I'm looking at the shots, the variations of shots, the way that people are being portrayed. But I love watching YouTube videos on tips and tricks or famous vloggers, and I'm not necessarily watching it because I want to see Logan Paul or Casey doing that and being an attentive viewer. I'm doing it because I'm like, right, what's the editor done here that's keeping me engaged? And I'll rewind the videos and I'll watch it, and that's what I do. So at the end of a night, say 10:30, I'll watch YouTube for 2 hours, and it's almost like an educational outlook on watching, like rather than being a viewer, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I really like that because it's personal development.
Yeah.
And like, again, with all the guests that we've had, every single one of them works with a mentor or they do something to help their personal development to improve on what they've already have. It's like, obviously you're already extremely talented, but the fact that you're still passionate about going out there and trying to figure out something new and taking enjoyment from what other people are creating, and the cinematography and editing that.
What word was that?
Cinematography, is that right?
Yeah, no, it was.
Cinematography. Go back to my media A level here. That keeps you engaged, which is I think that's awesome that you can be passionate about that, and it helps you with your work.
Well, it's the passion thing again there, isn't it? So we've asked you what's your favourite thing to do outside the gym, and it's your favourite thing to do outside the gym is to get better at your job.
Can't say that about many people.
Well, I wanted to say doing a copious amount of exercise, but I'm like, that's not the answer you want to give for this podcast.
No. So, right, okay, so they were awesome. So what we're going to talk about now, this section now is a section where we're going to talk specifically about you and something that we feel like you can help our listeners with back home. So what we're going to talk about now is, this is a really tricky subject, so I'm really intrigued to see where it goes with this, but what do you feel like the future of content creating is?
Long format, like I touched on it before with the podcast, is that people are becoming more and more antisocial and removed from social context, and I think people are going to start to crave that more and more. And I think we're starting to see it with a lot of long format podcasts moving forward. But like when you actually take a step back and think, why do I enjoy this? It's because you feel like you're sitting on the end of the couch with them and you're listening to the conversation. You're somehow being involved, and that's what I used to feel like when I was watching Joe Rogan back 7-8 years ago. I was like, why the heck am I appreciating this so much? Just because you feel like you're smoking a doobie with them on the end of the table and you're having a conversation with Joe and this and that. And I'm like, I think the YouTube like vloggy stuff, like I think we're going to see the end of that in the next 2 years, realistically. There'll obviously be a couple of people that stick around and are pioneers in it because they've already built the platform. But I think the people that can really talk long format, hold great conversations, and have deep and meaningful conversations, I think they're going to be the people that really progress in the future, in my opinion. Yeah.
That makes me so happy because mine and Sam's kind of first ever conversation about doing this podcast was that we just literally want to set a camera up, press play, then press stop, and just have a conversation. Let the viewers at home feel like they're just having a conversation with us.
And I think this will be the foundation of your content, if that makes sense. So you'll create TikTok clips off of sound bites or knowledge bombs that someone's dropped. You'll create marketing material to drive traffic here, but I think the foundation of most content is going to be long format. I think that's going to be the same with businesses.
That's interesting you say as well, because in the UK we have like quite a TV culture. I don't know if it's the same in New Zealand, but
Like EastEnders.
Yeah, EastEnders, Coronation Street. And I had a similar conversation with a friend back home about this last winter. And in the middle of the winter in the UK, it gets dark at 4:00 at night, and then everybody is quite antisocial because they're working, whatever, and they don't spend, like you're saying, we're spending less and less time with people. And in the UK, everyone will kind of tune in and watch Emmerdale, EastEnders, Coronation Street, and it's just a story, super basic story about
a sense of community.
People's lives. Yeah. And I feel like these people that are watching this, I feel like these people that they're watching on the TV, that they're friends.
Yeah.
And they're just hanging out with the cast of Coronation Street, and they're so involved within their life that they're reading up on the magazines, and they don't know the actor, they know the person the actor's playing.
Yeah,
and I feel like what you just said kind of just clicked for me a little bit. It's like, in the future, why would people want to spend so much time watching kind of a fake storyline when they can be watching someone that they're actually interested in, that's a real person, not a character, talking about something that they're passionate about on a podcast or a TV show or something. And I think I just found out the future.
The eureka.
That makes me so happy because, like, before my nan passed away last year, she would prop it into her like soaps and stuff, and she would talk about them like it was real life, and she was involved in that real life. Like, it's nuts when you think about it like that, because that's probably something that's never clicked for me before. But
yeah, and it's just some guy in a room writing, or a group of writers writing a script of a fiction, and people are so invested in it. And if it can be like not a script but real life and a real conversation, then I think that's definitely a way for media and content to move into the future.
So I want to just touch upon something that you said there, Cal, if that's okay. So obviously right now we're going through this kind of big demand at the moment for, say, Reels on Instagram or TikTok, because everyone's saying that people don't have very good attention spans. So what are we saying there, that we're going to start with like a big long format and then break that up into snippets to keep people entertained and to make them want to come back to the long format? Or
it's just more digestible. People want short, snappy, digestible things, and it's just for the serotonin.
That's my point.
Yeah, it's terrible though, because I'll watch a Mark Manson or a Gary Vee or a David Goggins, and I'll be like, phew, that really hit my buttons, and it's like a dream. You wake up 30 seconds later, you don't remember it. So I think these long format conversations will be the ones that are memorable. They're the ones that are going to build a really good personal brand. They're going to be connected to you. They're going to be invested in other things. But I think the Reels and TikToks are always going to have a place for driving traffic. And that's all I see it as now, as I don't see that as a brand builder.
Yeah, it's like kind of like the hook, right? And you might find a new piece of content because you watch a 15-second clip on TikTok and you're like, oh, that was actually quite interesting. I'm going to research this page. And I feel like when people are listening to a podcast or something, they're not in the same mindset as when they're scrolling through TikTok. I feel like when you're scrolling through TikTok, you're just looking for the next hit. You're like, let me find a video that I can look at and enjoy, or say on Instagram, let me find a photo that I can like for like a split second of like, oh, that was nice. And then 10 seconds later, you could ask someone, what was the picture you just liked? And you're like, actually,
it's terrible, isn't it? Yeah.
But when you listen to a podcast, I feel like people listening like during a commute or during a walk or before they go to bed, and it's a time where when you're listening to something, you're not actively on the phone and you can actually absorb the information a little bit more and feel like maybe it's a different kind of mindset to what you would have when you're scrolling through your phone.
Well, that what you're speaking about before when you're saying like David Goggins, you see a 15-second clip and it really like motivates you. That's something I'm super passionate about in terms of the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation factors. So when people turn around and they'll say like motivation's bullshit, it doesn't work or anything, they're talking more about extrinsic motivation factors. Extrinsic motivation factors are really hard to keep hold of and they're really hard to build a long-term success over. Whereas intrinsic motivation factors, things that come from within you, they're what really drives real success and real change.
Yeah, very true. It's funny, it kind of reminds me of a story when I was in uni and I went through like a real bodybuilding phase where I'd be like, right, go to the gym at 8 o'clock. I'm working out for 2.5 hours. And I used to put on, I don't know if you guys know, like CT Fletcher or Mike Rashid and his voice. I'd have it full blast and it was just like absolute garbage, or Arnold Schwarzenegger talking. And I was just like sitting there hyping myself up. But looking back at it now, that probably only lasted 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
You know, so you're right. It's like what's internally driving you. And I think that's what I lost in that whole CrossFit story was like, this is just a selfish journey that I'm going on. I'm not actually doing anything. Whereas
I think for me, when you were telling the story about the Rich Froning thing, that was like that was a realization that was very extrinsic, getting to train with Rich Froning. Whereas intrinsically, what would have made you happy is being able to shoot unbelievable content of everybody else that made them happy.
And I literally get goosebump moments, like the video of Dan that you were saying, like rewatching, because the video is slow-mo before I do anything to it. I'm watching him literally uncontrollably happy and like ecstatic, and I'm seeing all the people that care about him going in and giving him a hug. And I've had his partner come up to me 4 times. So literally across the last 4 days, and it's just been a beaming smile. And I'm like, I've touched her in a way that I want to touch everybody. Okay, that sounds so bad.
again, Callum's touched her intrinsically.
It was just I knew that she wanted to say something, but she was just overwhelmed with happiness. And I'm like, don't worry, I get it. Like, I'm fucking stoked with that video as well. Like, I'm so happy with Dan, and he's been showing that off and he's been really proud of it. So like, it's so cool that I have the ability to do that to everybody. And that's why you see me going so hard at Ep7. I want to make every single person feel like a fucking king, you know, or queen.
Yeah, it's a gift really that you're able to give people to take away. Because a lot of people, like you say, they'll go on the seminar and the seminar itself will be such a memorable moment in their life. And then to have something like that again, or they'll achieve something within the seminar that they, like Dan hasn't been doing any weightlifting really over the last 2 or 3 months. And he said to me, he's like, I have no idea where that came from because I haven't been doing any weightlifting. And he's like, I don't know where I got that from. And to be able to then have that moment to take away with him, it's just like, I think he'll just never forget it, which is, you can't do that in your normal 5-day job.
Sick.
So what we're going to talk about now, just to finish off, is a question that me and Sam answered in episode 1, I think.
Probably.
The podcast, probably.
The beginning.
A long time ago now. And we ask it every single one of our guests, and the answers have varied so much that it's super interesting. And I'm super interested to hear. If you were starting your journey now, what's the one piece of advice you would give yourself?
It's 2. There's specifically with content creation, is I have so many people come up to me and say, I wish I could get a good camera. I wish I could do that. And I'm like, I started on a phone. Like, literally start and give yourself the goal that every single piece of content you put out, you add 1 new element, which isn't that hard. Across 365 days, you're going to have 365 new elements. I've only been doing videography for 2.5 years. And that's my number 1 rule is I don't want to become complacent. I want to always add something, because I know I can cheat code it and do this video or photo really quickly, but that's why I enjoy doing the fashion shoots or doing something a little bit different, because I'm adding another element to my portfolio of skills. So that would be 1. And 2, don't be afraid to reach out to somebody who's better than you, because you can be just as good as them and you're going to be better than them if you do it early. Because that's the one thing I'm like, everyone says it. They say it with CrossFit, they say it with bodybuilding, they say it with art. I wish I started 5 years ago. Start right now, make up for those 5 years and do it as quick as possible. Like, become efficient.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I like the way, again, you talk about outreaching for help. It's like, it's so easy to think that it's, I don't know, embarrassing or whatever or you feel like a sign of weakness asking for help. But again, that's been such a common thing that's come up, is it's okay to ask for help, because these people are going to enjoy making you feel better. And that kind of leads on to another thing I want to ask, like, do you see yourself always creating content, or do you want to go to that place where you can give back and start to mentor other people in creating content? Because I know like speaking with other people as well, it's something you're so passionate about to give to a person, but I feel like a nice way to progress in the future is potentially to be able to give that gift of giving that to somebody new. I just wonder your thoughts on that.
I don't know, because at like this stage in time, I'm enjoying being selfish with regards to providing people with moments. So like, I don't want to, and that's a rule that I've set myself in the last probably 8-9 months, is like, don't look too far ahead. Because I've always been caught up in the 3-year, 5-year vision. I'm like, get caught up in the moment, get caught up in enjoying what you do, and work hard, and opportunities will arise, and just grab those opportunities when they do arise. And I feel like I've been doing that for the last 9-10 months, and everything's been going great. So I'm like, yeah, I love the idea of thinking about that, but I'm also like pretty fucking happy with how fast everything's progressing at the moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so if it kind of comes your way naturally without you going out your way to get it.
So I guess kind of to answer that is like, when a great opportunity arises, grasp it.
Yeah, well, I love the thing about starting now. So you could be 30 years old and in a career that you're not particularly happy with, in a life you're not particularly happy with, but feel like, I'm 30 now, I wish I'd done it 5 years ago. Well, guess what? In 5 years' time, no matter what, you'll be 35. So you'll be wishing that you did it when you were 30 then. Yeah. You'll be wishing that you did it, because time doesn't stop for anyone.
Yeah. And it's so easy. Like I opened my gym with the second highest number of members in the franchise history in Australasia. I worked for my old man doing really, really good things online over in America. And I was just like, you could so easily get comfortable in that. The salary, the check, the false sense of confidence, like people saying, oh, you're the best personal trainer I've ever had, this and that. But I'm like, it's just false fulfillment. Like, whereas with this, I'm just so selfish with giving people those moments that I know that I'm in such a happy place. So it's funny. I think people might not resonate with that, but I think when you know, you know.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think like even if you just look back over your life, we've all definitely had a point where we've been, like you say, that 6 out of 10 happy, which I think is a great like kind of analogy to use on your life, and where you think, right, I'm just rolling with it. But yeah, it's that taking that step and that opportunity to going in. I think it's very like inspiring listening to your story, and hearing everything you've gone through firsthand, and you like being like the proof to showing that it is possible, which is super, super inspiring for me.
I feel like this is a good time to tell the viewers back home, because I'm sure that you guys both get the messages that I get, and it's like, oh, you're so lucky, I wish I could do what you were doing. Well, guess what? You can. If you want to, you can. You just have to have the balls to go out there and do it.
Yeah,
it's taking that.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in faking it till you make it.
Yeah,
I always put myself in extremely uncomfortable positions, whether that's a competition or throwing myself in the behind the scenes of a competition that I shouldn't be filming, or sneaking into a venue that I shouldn't be there. And I'm like, fake it till you make it, and you'll eventually make it.
Yeah, it's all those little things that are going to add up and give you the experience of when you do make it. And it's all a little bit less intimidating.
I love that, guys. I think fake it till you make it is a great slogan for this episode.
It's kind of like the podcast.
That's going to be the title of the podcast.
Fake it till you make
Crispy, fake it till you make it.
7 weeks ago, we're like, shall we do a podcast? We're like,
I think it was.
I don't really know what I'm doing.
I think it was before you went away, didn't you? Before you went back home for Christmas, we were like, we need to do a podcast, and then you went away for like 7 years or whatever you went away for over Christmas. And then when you came back, we were like, well, come on, let's do it. And you were like, I don't really know what we're going to talk about. So I just booked the studio. I was like, oh, by the way, I booked the studio for Thursday. So we need to make it.
You've had amazing guests. Like, I'm sitting here after Darren Cartel, Siobhan, Sonny Webster, Sean. I mean, what's that, like 600,000 combined followers? More than that.
Probably 1 million combined followers over the last time.
Meanwhile, I'm sitting over here.
But guys, our 7 original listeners, we're still here for you. Okay, you're the ones.
I've had a couple.
Those that ask the questions, you're up.
So Samuel, what is going to happen next week? What are we doing next week? We could pre-record this because he says the same thing every week. But let's go.
Well, we are so lucky to have all these people in Bali that are super interesting. So we're going to keep getting them on the show for you guys. And every week I'm still learning something. So hopefully anyone that's listening out there is taking stuff away from this too. And we have, again, a whole different array of people that we're really desperate to get on the show. So if you are listening to this and you have enjoyed today, please make sure that you do subscribe to the YouTube channel or to the Spotify or Apple that you're listening to this on, because over the next coming weeks we're just going to keep rolling with the amazing guests and with all the information that they're providing us.
And where can people find you personally, Samuel, if they want to get a bit down and personal with you?
If anyone wants to find me, they can find me on
OnlyFans swipe up.
OnlyFans swipe up.
YouTube.
He's gone. His head's gone. Yes.
I was like, maybe we could do that. No, we can't. YouTube, The Life of Bish. If you want to see a little bit more insight to my day-to-day life, or Instagram at sambish92.
What about you, Carl?
For all the content I'm doing for Sonny Webster GB, and then Sonny Webster YouTube, go check that out. See some of the longer format. And then for my fitness related content, Crispy Dudes, and for me, Callum Mulligan 83, my lucky number.
Not the year you were born.
No, people think that with my shaved head, but I'm only 28.
Youngest here.
And if you guys want to follow us as well on Instagram, it's life_outside_the box on Instagram.
Yeah, you got it right this week.
Got it right this week. There you go. It's only taken 7 weeks.
Any closing thoughts you want to finish us
No,
with?
thanks for having me. It feels like a bit of a privilege after that bloody caliber of guests.
Yeah, well, it feels nice because maybe we've taken over your mantle this week and given you the chance to feel good about yourself when you normally do it for other people. Hey?
Thanks, bro. I appreciate
This has been my favourite episode ever.
You say that every week.
Yeah, mate, that's another thing we could pre-record and just play. All right, guys, thank you for listening. Peace out.
It's life outside
Keep
the
it
box.
Gucci, baby.
Keep it Gucci.
Done.